All right, welcome to the Hoops Rehab Show on a Thursday night. The fantasy. How you doing, EMAC?
That's right, doing good, man. It's fantasy football season is upon us, basically, and so super excited about that. How are things with you?
Yeah, man. You know how it is when you get to the end of August. We get draft time. We got our draft this weekend, so that's
Right.
a little sidebar there. But I know a lot of people got their fantasy drafts coming up this weekend, kind of into Labor Day weekend. So we really wanted to kind of get a show fully focused on fantasy football draft, and my hope was to kind of give you guys some insight on the injury side of things. So kind of my rankings are based on injury in the past season, and obviously how they are as a fantasy player, their team, and how they're going to develop as a player throughout the season and past seasons. So we'll kind of get into that. But as always, everybody, I am the Game Injury Doc, aka Dr. Evan Jeffries. On my right is Eric B. Mack. We are the host of the Hoops Rehab Show. You can find our YouTube channel at the Hoops Rehab Show. So please subscribe. If you're on the live right now, hit that subscribe button. And obviously, we're live on Twitter as well. We also have the Instagram. So if you follow Instagram, hit us up on the Hoops Rehab Show if you ever have any questions. And after this show, we'll be uploading the podcast for wherever you get your podcast. You can download it with the Hoops Rehab Show. All right, Eric. Fantasy Football Edition. You ready to get this cracking?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, man. So I thought we would break it down based on kind of categories of position, and then we'll kind of finish off with a little first-round mock of, like, say, a 10-team league. But we wanted to just break down the positions and kind of have a overall idea of who are the best receivers, who are the best running backs, who are the best quarterbacks, who are the best tight ends, and then maybe some sleepers in there. So I'm going to give a top 5. Eric B. Mack is going to give a top 5, and then we're going to kind of break it down and see where our 5 are different, because we have not told each other. This is kind of blindfolded right here, so we want to get a good idea on it. But if you guys have any questions or you have any thoughts on players, what you want to know injury-wise, or what you want to know where a person should be drafted, who you should draft versus not drafting somebody, comment on the YouTube chat and comment on the Twitter chat. Right, Eric?
Yes, please. I know the folks that are going to be listening, you probably have a lot of opinions about some of these players, and I mean, I'd love to hear what you guys could, have to say. Maybe I could use some of your advice in my drafts that I got coming, and so that would be amazing.
All right, so we already got some comments in here. I'm going to show one because it might give you a little preview into some of my insight. We got Rain. Might sound crazy, but I generally think that Lamb is the WR1. Not trying to be different, but history shows it's insanely difficult to repeat wide receiver 1 back-to-back seasons, especially off a triple crown. All right, I love these comments. Keep them coming. We'll kind of get to them throughout the show. But Eric, let's get started with receivers.
Yep, and that is so true. One thing that you always want to think about when you're drafting your guys, it's like you worry when somebody has such a good season because it's just really tough to beat it. But there are some guys that have an amazing season, and if they could do 80% of what they did, it's still pretty damn good. So definitely a good point with that one. But let's get it.
100%. So
kick us off.
I will kick it off on my side here with the receivers. When I was looking at the receivers, obviously there's the rankings that ESPN always has, Yahoo always has, things like that. Yep. And we know how valuable receivers have been in fantasy over the last, 5 years-ish, right? Especially with the PPR leagues. But I did a little research and kind of adjusted my rankings based on some injury history. Obviously the team and quarterback that they have right now, their fantasy seasons that they've had already. And that's kind of like how I combine my rankings here. So, without further ado, I will start it off.
Right.
This comes to probably no surprise to anybody, but Jamar Chase is my number one receiver off the board. By far, this guy has been a stud throughout pretty much his whole NFL career. He's been relatively healthy. It was only in 2022 when he had a hip injury, which cost him 4 games. But other than that, he's been healthy the whole time. So hasn't really missed any time since then. And I know he had the holdout that 1 year. That was kind of like going into training camp. We were kind of nervous about picking him. Lit it up. He's lit it up the last 2 years, and I don't see anything different with that. So he is my number one wide receiver off the board there. For my number 2, I think this might come as a surprise to some of y'all, but this guy is an Iron Man. Like, he plays through everything, and that would be Amon-Ra St. Brown from Detroit, right? Like, he's consistent as consistent gets. He's always dominating the numbers. He's in one of the most explosive offense, obviously, with Detroit. And I feel like he has just been able to play through. He gets a little banged up here and there, but he usually plays through everything. And he's only really missed 2 games in his career. So I think as far as having somebody as healthy as possible, that's what you want. You want somebody to play 17 games. And I got him as my second receiver off the board. Okay. So number 3, my man Rain talked about it. I got CeeDee Lamb as my number 3 receiver for a couple reasons. Like, he literally, most people don't even think of him as like an Iron Man, but he's only was shut out in the last 2 games last season because the Cowboys were so bad. He had a little shoulder injury. Otherwise, he probably would have played if they were healthy. So he's really never missed games. And on top of that, he's had consistent seasons where he is a great receiver. He's getting touchdowns. He's getting receptions. He's getting yards. And I think with a healthy Dak, I think he can easily be a top wide receiver, and especially having Pickens on the other side. I think that's going to help him a lot. So I got him number 3. And then I'm rounding up the top 5 for me is you got Justin Jefferson, who I moved him down further because he's had a hamstring injuries in the past. In 2023, where he missed 7 games because of hamstring. What does he have going into training camp? A hamstring injury. Right. And what have I always talked about with hamstring injuries? They can linger. They get easily aggravated, especially for receivers when they start sprinting and cutting and decelerating. That's when they get injured. So I got him as my number 4 receiver off the board. I still think he can have a pretty solid season. It's just a matter of going into training camp and having this hamstring injury could hinder him. And we really don't know what McCarthy is going to bring. Okay, so he's my number 4. My number 5 was a tough position. But I got Malik Neighbors. He only missed the games because of the concussion. But I feel like in that offense, he was elite as a rookie, and I think he only gets better as the season goes on with Russell Wilson and more than likely Dart, because I don't know if you guys seen him in the preseason. He's been pretty damn good. So I think he's a solid number 5, and those are my top 5, Eric. What you got?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely some solid choices. Can't go wrong. Sorry, I'm just pulling up a couple of things. You can't go wrong probably with either of those. And I mean, I think whether you are the type of league that you have, PPR, non-PPR, half point PPR, I think these are guys that are going to just put you up numbers regardless. But obviously, if you do have PPR, you want to kind of act and choose accordingly. And so mine's going to be very similar. Maybe the rankings might be a little different, but so yeah, Jamar Chase, right? Number 1. He's going into his 5th season, right? I believe. And so, right. 17 games, 12 games, 16 games, 17 games, just a monster year. He definitely at times starts off slow. So I wouldn't, worry too much if something like that happens again. I don't know if it's just the Bengals that start off slow too. But I mean, they got Joe Burrow, right? they're going to slang that thing. And as long as he's healthy, which he has been pretty healthy, you'd anticipate him just automatically getting some monster numbers. So definitely going to have him at number 1. I'm going to put CeeDee Lamb at number 2. It's interesting because I just mentioned how it's tough when you have a player that's had such a amazing year. So CeeDee Lamb 2 years ago had just tremendous year, 135 catches, 1,749 yards, 12 touchdowns, right? And so last year was a little bit of a letdown for Dallas in general. But I mean, looking at his, looks like going on 6th year, he's been an Iron Man. So 16 games, 16 games, 17 games, 17 games, 15 games last year. And he still had 101 grabs. The touchdowns were a little low, but I do see a big bounce back year for him. So I got to have him having maybe numbers more so in between last year's and the year before. And I think that would do just fine for your first round pick. And then third, I'm going to go. Look, I feel it's tough. I'm going to go Justin Jefferson. I think he's proven that no matter who is the quarterback, and I know that has to be a worry, right? There's got to be someone that's trustworthy that's passing him the ball. But if I'm not mistaken, he's gone through several different quarterbacks and he's been pretty damn consistent. He had 2023 where he missed a lot of games. You obviously are concerned about the hamstring, which, I mean, we know that has to be a big concern. But, going into his, looks like it's 6th year as well. So he's played 16 games, 17, 17, 10, and 17. And so, last year, 1,500 yards, 10 touchdowns. So I got to have him at my number 3. Number 4, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Basically for the reasons that you mentioned to me. I see Detroit. They are kind of a smash mouth run first offense, but him and Laporta should be the dominant pass catchers. I don't see anything different there. Again, you mentioned Iron Man 17, 16, 16, 17, 150, pretty damn consistent last 3 years. So 106 catches, 119 catches, 115 catches. He hit double-digit touchdowns the last 2 years. So I love him in that spot. And then 5th, oh my gosh, I am choosing this because it's tough, but I'm just going to assume that Matthew Stafford is going to be playing. And to be honest, it was between, Mabers and Puka Nacua. So I got to go with Puka Nacua, breakout season last year. He did have some injuries in and out of the lineup, right? I think he was out 3 or 4 weeks in the middle of the year, if I'm not mistaken. But playing only 11 games, 106 grabs. The touchdowns, though, that's something I would like to see because he only had 3. But if you're PPR, he picks up a lot of catches, chunk yards. So I have him only because I got to think about quarterback, and I might be worried about Matt Stafford, but I'm just worried about the shuffling of, back and forth with quarterbacks on the Giants. I love the rookie coming in. I just think I would look for year 2 to be that kind of dynamic duo. Regardless, obviously, if he lands on my lap on my team, it would be amazing. But those are my top 5 receivers.
Yeah, I mean, that's easily a nice top 5. Pretty much ours were the same with different orders. Just without you had Puka and I had Neighbors. I think it was a close call. For me, Puka, it was the Stafford that held him out, and the fact that he was banged up last year as well. He had the PCL injury kind of going into the season, or at least after week 1. So he played only 10 games last year, and I need to see a little bit more consistency there. But yeah, I think he's going to be up there on the top receivers as well. Now, I did have somebody that was literally neck and neck with Malik Neighbors, and that is Brian Thomas Jr. And to me, I think he's going to be
Look
up
out.
there in the top receivers. So if you told me by the end of the year that Brian Thomas was a top 5 receiver, I wouldn't be surprised, because I think that guy's talent is going to be out of this world, and also think he gets touchdowns, which is something that some of these receivers like Puka doesn't really get enough touchdowns, but he gets a lot of receptions. So great choices there, Eric. That was a nice little start to the wide receivers. We can go now to our next position, which is running back. And did you want to start this one off there with the top 5 running backs?
Yeah, I could start off. And so it's just funny, right? Because you did say the last like 4 or 5 years, things have definitely changed. Where running backs are obviously could still get you a lot of points, and if you get the right guy, he could lead you to a championship. But with high volume receivers that we have these days, it's not a shoo-in for a running back to be top pick anymore. And so, I'll go through my list, and then we'll kind of take it from there. So I first got to go with year 3 running back. I know, last year he was, sorry, I'm looking at something real quick here. So last year, he, first of all, Iron Man, Bijan Robinson. He's played every game, both seasons that he's been in the league so far. Last year was a breakout year for him in terms of yards. So 1,456 yards compared to 976 the year before, 14 touchdowns. He does catch the ball from the backfield, which again is really, 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 really important PPR. So he is my number 1 running back. Probably not going out on a limb there, although some may have the likes of a Barkley first. And so definitely can't disrespect Saquon Barkley any further. I am a little weary about the year that he had last year, because just data shows when a guy runs for 2,000 yards, he did run for 2,000 yards, right? Last year, that the following year, I think they averaged like 900 yards, something to that effect. I was looking at it, and which is pretty crazy. And so, we know he's had some injuries. He's been a little bit, even though like the last, looking at his last 4 years, 13 games, 16 games, 14 games, 16 games. So, I mean, he's been there, but just last year was dynamite, 2,005 yards. But I don't want to be the person that doesn't pick him again, and he, goes off for 1,500 yards, right? And 10 touchdowns. And so he is right there at my number 2. And then I will go for my number 3, just all-purpose back, Jahmyr Gibbs. I just think, he, again, talking about the Detroit, offense, he basically does everything for them, catches the ball, runs out of the backfield, super fast, right? Last year he played all 17 games, 1,400 yards, 16 touchdowns. As I mentioned, does catch a bunch of balls. And so he is my number 3. Oh man, this is kind of where it starts to get a little tough, but I'm gonna have to go with the young fella with my number 4, Ashton Genty from the Las Vegas Raiders. Rookie running backs, and there was a time that rookie receivers you kind of wanted to wait for year 2, but rookie running backs could put up solid numbers. I think it's, Raiders are going to give him plenty of opportunity. What Pete Carroll did with Marshawn Lynch, right? And I kind of see it being very similar with that. And so I see a pretty good year, and definitely someone to consider as a top 5 running back. And then number 5, man, it's like, it's just so many different ways you can go, right? You got your Christian McCaffrey. I don't even want to put Jonathan Taylor there. Josh Jacobs, hell, he had a really good year. Devon A-Chain, right? He's just tremendous with catching balls, and he just puts up points. But I'm a little bit worried about his size and his injuries he has going right now. So I'm going to just have to go with Old Faithful, Baltimore Ravens, Derrick Henry. There's going to be a year that he falls off. Could be this year, but I'll be damned again if I'm not picking him again, because he had on the Ravens a dynamite year last year. They're going to be just as good. They're going to be just as explosive. He's going to get just as many opportunities with Lamar Jackson running that thing too. So that rounds out my top 5 running backs.
Okay. I like your list. I think we got more of the same with some interchangeable pieces here.
Yeah.
But to me, unanimously, at my number 1 is Bijan. I mean, he hasn't missed a game at all. And him going from like 900 yards to 1,400 plus yards with 14 TDs was just pretty much, I'm RB1. I'm the best running back in the game, or ready to be the best running back in the game. So, yeah, that's definitely number 1 there. And then for me, where we kind of just changed a little bit is I got Jahmyr Gibbs there at number 2. He only really missed 2 games as a rookie for a hamstring issue, but he played all games last season. And to me, just being in that explosive offense that he has in Detroit, where they're just run heavy, and also obviously they pass and do a little bit of everything, I think he's just going to get to a point where he can easily, I mean, he had 1,400 yards and 16 TDs last year, right?
Crazy.
And he's going to receive the ball a little bit more than Bijan. So I think they're going to be neck and neck up there for fantasy points. I think those 2 are definitely top tier as far as running backs there. Now for my number 3 is kind of where we defer just a little bit. I got Ashton Genty as my number 3. I do have a rookie there. I understand that, but I know that Pete Carroll is the head coach, and I know that Marshawn Lynch with Pete Carroll was pretty damn successful. And if you ever watched Genty in college, this dude was a beast in college. I mean, everybody knows that. Everybody saw it. But he's so physical. I think that the Raiders are going to run the ball a lot. And I think he's going to have a hell of a year, and he'll probably at least top 8 to 10 touchdowns as a rookie, plus over 1,000 plus yards. So I think he'll be up there as the number 3 back there. And then for me, I put Saquon down at number 4. Now, over the last 4 years, he's been really relatively healthy, right? He had obviously the ACL tear in 2020 and missed 14 games that season. But since then, he's come back. He's had a lot of knick-knack injuries, kind of some ankle stuff, but is able to only miss a couple games per season. I love your point about having a 2,000-yard back. I didn't realize the next season they've only averaged 900 yards, which is freaking crazy. But it also shows you that the amount of load that they had that year, because, I mean, the amount of carries you have to get to 2,000 is so much on the body that chances are he could break down this year, or he could have an injury. And so that's why I got him a little bit lower. I'm not going to take him out of my top 5 because that'd be pretty disrespectful. I think he's on an explosive offense like the Eagles, and so I got him at number 4. Now my number 5 is kind of where we really kind of get a little different here. I got Bucky Irving as my top 5 running back. Now, this guy, in my opinion, is ready to take that sophomore leap, kind of how Gibbs took his sophomore leap, kind of how Bijan took his sophomore leap. And I know that there's Rashard White. I know he's there. But that's the same thing saying for Gibbs. You knew Montgomery was there last year, and you knew he was going to get a bunch of carries. But in my opinion, having the offense that Tampa has is so explosive. Like, I feel Baker's going to have a great year too as well. And right now they're just down a couple receivers, so they're going to rely heavy on the running game, and he can catch the ball out of the backfield. I just think Bucky's going to have one of those years where he'll definitely be a top 5 running back. So Bucky is in my top 5 there. Eric, what do you say?
What the Bucky? Yeah, I mean he's definitely got like stud potential. I like Tampa's offense, so that's definitely a bit of a surprise. But I definitely had him in my top 8 or 9, so not too much of a surprise for me. But yeah, good list. I yeah, there is a little worry about just the wear and tear of a Barkley. But as I said, like it's tough because he's gonna get a lot of the same opportunity, and that's what it's all about. Same with Ashton and in Oakland, in Vegas, he's gonna get a ton of opportunity, and so it is kind of if whoever's gonna get the bulk of the carries, you got to really is really someone that you got to take a look at because there's not much else back there. Then there's no worry in terms of their production. Of course, if they stay healthy.
Yeah, 100%. Now, we do both have somebody out of our top 5, Eric. And who kind of would that be that I think that maybe a lot of people might have in their top 5 there?
Maybe CMC?
Yep, C-Mac. So my thing with Christian McCaffrey was that obviously he's had his injury history, and since he's kind of been with San Fran, it's been relatively pretty good up until last year. My problem is he had bilateral Achilles tendonitis, right? So not just one side, he had both sides. And when you have a tendonitis, which turns into like basically what we call like a tendinosis, that's degeneration of the tendon. And then he had a knee injury as well, which kind of put him out the rest of the season. So I just feel that, yes, he will get every opportunity to shine. And if he's healthy, he'll be a top 5 running back. There's no doubt about it. If he played a full season, you know what you're going to get out of C-Mac. I just don't foresee him being healthy the whole season. And I hope so. It's just one of those things where when you hear that, my first thought is I'm worried about his Achilles. And I don't want to see anything happen like that. I want him to be healthy and successful. But that's part of the reason why he is down on my rankings as far as the top running back.
Yeah, that's definitely great insight. I think for a lot of us, it's just more like, all right, he's been injured. But just to hear now the severity of his injuries, and it could really factor in on things, and him playing a full 17, for example, and things of that nature. So you got to just err on the side of caution. Hopefully he has a healthy year, because if he's healthy, we know what he can do. But yeah, definitely great insight on that.
All right. So before we kind of get into the next position, which is quarterbacks, I just want to we got a little question here on a trade proposal, Eric. So we got Frizzell Fantasy asking, in 12-man PPR, would you trade Aaron Jones and Pickens for Chase Brown? All right, I already answered that. That's a yes. But Eric, you can answer that as well. His receivers are Nico, Juan, Olave, Coleman. Running backs are Genty, Kamara, and Eckler. Eric, what do you think about that trade?
I like that Coleman, that's for sure. Yeah, that's a big yes. I think whenever you're trading a veteran running back technically for someone young with, again, a team with an explosive offense and definitely an opportunity, I think you got to go for it. Pickens, we'll see kind of what he does down there, down in where's he at? Dallas, right?
Yep.
He might. I don't know. I would say that's a big yes, knowing the rest of your squad and what you have. You got to, definitely pretty good, pretty solid team, especially it being a 12-man team. I wonder who your quarterback is, Freezy.
Yeah, let us know what your quarterback is, Freezy. All right, and then we got Rain with some respect, with a salute in terms of your list, with your running back list. So if you guys missed it, you're going to be able to check the replay with this or on the podcast. But again, like we always say, comment on the YouTube right now if you're watching this live. Please hit the subscribe button as well, because we will be having fantasy football talk. We'll be having football talk throughout the season. This is our football edition of the Hoops Rehab Show. So remember, we're obviously the Hoops Rehab Show. We talk about basketball, but we have now added football, and we are getting into fantasy football as well. So let's get into our quarterbacks. And I'll start off this one with my top 5, right, Eric?
Yep, let's do it.
Okay, so my number 1 pick, first quarterback off the board, is going to be Josh Allen. I think he's one of the toughest players in this league, especially at the quarterback position. It seems like he gets beat up because he definitely runs through everybody. He's a big, solid dude, but he always plays through everything. Only time he's ever missed games was his rookie season when he had the elbow issue. He missed 4 games there, but other than that, he has been relatively really healthy and has dominated as a quarterback, or especially as a fantasy quarterback over the last couple of years. So I got him as a clear-cut number 1 quarterback. Coming in at my number 2 would be Lamar Jackson, right? Lamar has been obviously he had an MVP season last season. So he is coming off like such one of those like where you're coming off MVP. You've had such a great season. It's hard to go up from that. But I don't doubt that he'll be close to being where he is. So that's why I still have him at number 2. And he's been relatively healthy over obviously the last 2 seasons. So he hasn't missed too many games in terms of that. So I got Lamar as my number 2. Now getting to my number 3. This is when it kind of gets a little hairy with certain things, but I got Jaden Daniels, my number 3 quarterback. Obviously had an amazing rookie season, didn't miss a game. The only thing that is a hiccup for me is I obviously want to see Terry McLaurin there. I want to see Scary Terry there. I want to see him as his receiver. They added Debo, so I like that. A little confused on what to do with Brian Robinson because they want to trade him and he's not going to play there anymore. So they're kind of going with the smaller backs like Eckler and the rookie, the 7th round pick out of there as well. So I still like Jaden Daniels to run for a lot, so he's going to get a lot of touchdowns, and then obviously probably get a little bit more passing this year as well as he gets comfortable in his sophomore season. So he is my 3rd quarterback. And then my 4th is Joe Burrow, and that Cincinnati offense, which will probably be a top 3 offense in this league. You got Jamar Chase, Higgins on the outside, and you got a pretty stud back in Chase Brown. The only thing to worry about with him is protecting damn Joe Burrow. Did you see how bad he got hit in the preseason, Eric?
I actually didn't see it, but was it bad? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he almost lost his life there. So that's the only thing that gets me. He's obviously had the ACL injury that cost him a bunch of time, and then the wrist surgery that cost him some time as well. But he's missed 13 games overall, which is not too bad. But I definitely see him as a top 5 quarterback. And then rounding out my top 5 is the Super Bowl champion, Jalen Hurts. I feel that he is still undisputed, not recognized, but a pretty damn good quarterback. And he's going to get you obviously a lot of rushing touchdowns, and he's going to get you some passing touchdowns. And they just have an offense that just never stops turning. So those are my top 5 at quarterback. Eric, what you got?
Yeah, I mean, mine are going to be very similar. I do have to point out for some of you guys that might be listening. So remember, this is fantasy quarterbacks. It's we know there's a certain someone that we left out that probably would be top on the list if we're talking top 5 quarterbacks, and it's just so interesting because there's definitely a trend with the guys that we're picking. It's guys that can run the ball. It's guys that can rush for touchdowns. We know there's a lot of leagues that have a standard 4 points for passing touchdowns and 6 for rushing. Our particular league actually has 6 for both. So quarterbacks do carry a little bit more weight in our league. But nonetheless, Josh Allen, number 1 pick for all the reasons, or number 1 quarterback, I should say, not number 1 pick, but unless you want to, because I know some people like to wait with quarterbacks, but when you got somebody like him, he's going to play every game. He's going to be the main part of the offense. If they get down to the 4 or 5 yard line, he's going to be the one that's going to carry that ball in most likely. And so he's consensus number 1. Gotta go number 2. I'm going to go Lamar Jackson as well for all the things you mentioned. Just super dynamic. Baltimore is going to be really good. And if they are going to be really good, it's because he's having another solid year. He passes the ball around. He runs it like crazy, rushes it like crazy, scores touchdowns. I don't see really anything different with that. He's had years that have been better than others in terms of from a fantasy perspective, but last year was, as you said, very much MVP-like. Him and Josh Allen had very, very close numbers. And honestly, with all these players, really, you're really splitting hairs. But that's my number 2. So where I have a little bit different take is my number 3 is my main man, Mr. Cool, Joe Burrow. Again, for all the things you mentioned, all the weapons he has. He does get off the slow starts, just as the Bengals do. But when you look at his stats at the end of the year, he's not really mobile in terms of getting yards. He's pretty nifty in the backfield. He kind of needs to be with that offensive line. But he's just going to put up yards and he's going to put touchdowns up. And there's no stopping him if he's healthy. And so number 4, Jaden Daniels, for all the reasons, again, you said, just he had a dynamic rookie season. I don't see him slowing down his second year. If anything, I don't really see a sophomore slump, but he's going to probably step it up a little bit, maybe get some more passing touchdowns, some more passing yards. But as the first few that I mentioned, or first couple, he runs that rock. And then, number 5, Super Bowl champion, Jalen Hurts. Ever since he's taken over for Philly, he's had amazing seasons. Again, a dynamic offense. When you have the offense that some of these quarterbacks are in, it's really hard to pick against them. So that is my top 5.
Yep. So we have the same top 5, just a little different order. But no surprise there. I feel like those 5 quarterbacks are pretty much, if you're going to go with the top quarterback, those are going to be the 5 that are drafted early rounds, and then you can almost wait to get later in there. I will say there was somebody that was going to creep into my top 5, and this was probably going to be in replace of Jalen Hurts, and that was going to be my man Baker Mayfield. And I feel that he has got such a handle over this Tampa Bay offense now. He's obviously had the change in coordinators because they've gotten hired as head coaches now, the 2 of them. But they're going to install the same offense, and I just feel like with some of the weapons that he has, he's going to be a top 5 quarterback. So I would not be surprised if Baker enters the top 5 territory, especially this year as a quarterback there. So I had him just on the outside looking in. And yes, Eric, you're right. We did not include the best quarterback in the game, Patrick Mahomes. That's because he is the reincarnation of Tom Brady, who is not the greatest fantasy quarterback for a while, and then his game kind of adapted to be a top quarterback after a while too. So he always kind of went in and out of being in the top 5 quarterbacks based on his years, but they always won. So it was just one of those things where it doesn't matter if you're winning, but sometimes the fantasy doesn't come with that.
Yep. But you know what's going to happen, and it may even be this year coming up. There's going to be one year he's just going to just go off. It just depends on when it's going to happen, because it's going to happen one of these next few years, kind of like Tom Brady. And then towards the end of Tom Brady, pretty much almost all of his years were really good.
Yeah. I mean, I think you're going to get some really good value of Patrick Mahomes if he drops. So I think that's one thing too, right? Some of these quarterbacks that are outside the top 5 that drop, and I mean, value is going to be great for them. So I don't think you go wrong with drafting him, because I think he'll have some of his weapons back this year with people healthy. So I think that'll be pretty good. Yep. But all right, Eric, let's get into our tight end position. So I'll let you get this one started there.
Yeah, tight ends, a little bit interesting this year. I guess like a lot of years where man, it's if you don't get those top few, then you're not to say there's slim pickings, but you got to hope that maybe there's some sort of value pick out there. And you kind of get someone that maybe wasn't anticipated to have an amazing year, and they do. But I'll go number one, Brock Bowers. So it's a second year. Had a really, really great, first campaign. And so I see him picking up, where he left off, and he is my number one. My number two, I got to go Trey McBride. And so he had basically his first year, 29 receptions, second year, 81 receptions, 2024, 111 receptions. I don't know if he's going to top that, but I think what they got going on in Arizona, him and Marvin Harrison are going to see the bulk of pretty much everything, and so I see him having another solid year. Number three, I'm going to have to go Sam Laporta. He did not have the year that he had in his rookie season, so a little bit of injury, a little bit, I believe, at least, definitely not the statistics that he had, and so I look for a bounce back from him. Maybe a little bit kind of in between his rookie year and last year. So he is my number three. And then, this is where it gets like a little dicey. But I have to go, I'm going to go Travis Kelce. He's there. He was pretty much up until last year, like, people were even picking him in the first round in their drafts. First round, definitely first tight end along with Laporta. And so, for a tight end, you don't have to put up these like tremendous numbers, but I look for definitely Mahomes to try to find him a little bit more and to have a bounce back year. And then 5, this is where it gets a little tight. It's like, do you go with just a veteran who you kind of anticipate, like George Kittle, that might just get the numbers that he's always gotten? I think Mark Andrews is definitely taking a step back. I'm going to go with Tyler Warren, just because he's just a stud. I don't know, how he's going to do this year, but I'm going to just kind of go with the last few years. It's really been the young tight ends that have kind of carried things other than your couple of vets. And so I'm going to go with Tyler Warren. If you guys saw him at Penn State, he just catches balls. He's on the Colts, and so we'll see about the QB situation there. But I think he will get his opportunity, and he is my number 5.
All right, I like it. And getting the rookie in there. I know that's your guy, though, so
yeah,
I wasn't surprised there.
I had to sneak him in. I could have had him as a sleeper, I guess, but snuck him in there.
Oh, yeah. So yeah, as far as tight ends, they're going to look pretty similar, just with a little bit of different order. I got Mr. Reliable, Brock Bowers. I mean, geez, what else could we say? 100+ receptions. He's going to get all the yards. They don't necessarily have a dominant number one receiver. He is the wide number one receiver. And he's probably going to get you touchdowns too, as well. So he's definitely going to be up there and then probably the top tight end this year again. And then, yeah, Trey McBride. I mean, 100+ receptions. Now, the only thing I need from Trey McBride is my man needs to get in the end zone. And if he figures that out, he can take over the number one position if he figures out how to get in the end zone. He's stayed relatively healthy. Both these guys have been really, really healthy, haven't missed any games. So those two are a lock for the top 2 positions at tight end. Now, I feel that there's been, some disrespect to a certain guy that has been a staple in fantasy, a staple for the Kansas City Chiefs, and that's Travis Kelce at my number 3. Okay. Talk about Iron Man. This dude has not missed games at all. He's played all these seasons, and he only missed one due to a bone bruise in 2023. Right. So he's been playing since 2014 to last year. He hasn't really missed any games. even last year on a down year, he had 97 receptions.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
That's something.
he hasn't been below 92 since 2017. Okay? So, yes, he didn't have as many yards. He had 823. He only had 3 touchdowns. I feel like he is going to up those this year. He's going to be almost on a revenge tour because they lost, and I think he knows this might be his last, or one of those where I'm going to give it all until I can't. So I could see him having a pretty big year. So I think he's going to have a little bit more value this year with that pick. And then for my number 4, I got George Kittle. I think he's been as reliable as you can the last 4 years. He's missed a total of 13 games. But again, when you look at the receivers on the 49ers, you got Pearsall, who's pretty much your number 1. You don't know when Ayuk is coming back. Jennings, yeah, I know. He's a sleeper. Jennings has been injured, hasn't really played at all this training camp. They just traded for Sky Moore because they lost another receiver. So I just don't think they're going to have that many options, and I think he'll be a big outlet for Brock Purdy. So I got him at number 4. Now, at number 5 is where we defer. I like, obviously, Tyler Warren. Just he hasn't proven anything. But I feel like Tucker Kraft came into his own last year and became pretty much the de facto number 1 receiver and tight end for the Green Bay Packers. And the reason why I kind of keep him up there is because I think he'll be a reliable target for Jordan Love. And you really don't know what you're getting out of the rookie Golden. You don't know what you're going to get out of Reed. You know what you're going to get out of Dobbs pretty much, right? You know you're going to get that kind of consistency. But I feel like Tucker Kraft can be that guy that's going to get you pretty good numbers there. So I got him at my top 5, but I love the Warren pick there.
Yeah, yep. It's going back to Travis Kelce. Yeah, I mean, 97 catches last year, 93 the year before. And so if he's kind of getting, I think I could see him getting 80 catches, 1,000 yards, maybe 6-7 touchdowns, and that's good enough for a tight end. He may even do more. And so yeah, same thing with Kraft. He's definitely a big part of that offense. So definitely, I see Sam Laporta was left off, and so I'm sure you probably got him kind of in your 6 or 7. But yeah, tight end is an interesting position. Once you kind of, if you don't get those top few, you just kind of hope you get something that sticks.
100%. All right, Eric. So I wanted to kind of get into a couple sleepers, or just kind of get into who you feel that's going to maybe not talked about as much, and maybe some people that have already been talked about as sleepers. But who you got as your sleepers for this fantasy season?
I mean, just to name a few, it's funny because you did mention, like, in the tight ends, Tucker Kraft was actually, someone I was kind of thinking in terms of a sleeper for tight ends. And then you mentioned, and I kind of alluded to it with Pearsall from San Francisco. I see him having a pretty decent season, being there pretty much number 1. He obviously played last year, but he missed a portion of the year. Obviously, we know what happened, with him, unfortunately. Was it a gun wound or a stabbing? Gun wound, right? And so I think he's gonna prove to have a pretty decent year. I don't know if it's a sleeper, but I'll be damned that I think he should have a better year. I said his name earlier, Marvin Harrison Jr. I mean, a stud out of Ohio State. I think he is one of these guys that is going to be a lot better in year 2. That used to kind of be how it was with receivers. That first year just took a little bit to kind of figure things out, and year 2 is where you would take off. I see something like that from him. So there's a few guys that I got.
Yeah, that's a great list, man. I mean, I feel like those guys will definitely have an opportunity to become great fantasy players.
They're not deep sleepers, obviously. They're just guys that you might want to think about drafting a little sooner than later.
Yeah. My number one on that list is Emeka Egbuka, the rookie receiver at Ohio State. That's going to be in Tampa. I mean, mine is based on injury, right? So McMillan is out until week 9, and even that is not a guarantee that he's going to come back. So essentially, he sprained his neck. So that means his ligaments are lax or loose, pretty much, that hold the vertebrae together. So if he doesn't get that in control, under control, it's basically like he has instability in his neck, and it takes one hit to do pretty significant damage. So I'm hoping he gets back at some point this season, but I think it's going to be a difficult task regardless, right? Yeah. So that's why I'm already bumping him up pretty high up there. And then you got Goodwin, who is coming off the PUP list, right? He made the roster, but he's more than likely going to be out the first 3 weeks or so, and probably not coming back to early October. So then you got Mike Evans, old reliable. You know what you're going to get out of him. You're going to get 1,000 yards and probably like 8 to 10 touchdowns. But how much longer is he going to do that? So I feel like this guy is going to be the de facto number one receiver on Tampa. So I got some pretty high praise for him coming out. And then for me, I got a player like, when you look at a rookie running backs, there's obviously Hampton from the Chargers, which everybody's loving, everybody's talking about. But I feel like RJ Harvey is going to have a better season in Denver because of their explosive offense. And I think they're just going to have a lot of set plays for him, even though they have Dobbins as a backup as well, or they have him in there to maybe be the starter, maybe not. We all know with J.K. Dobbins, I hate to say it, but he's unfortunately has had so many injuries over the past. No matter how well he's doing, there is some point in the season where he will be on the injury list and might be out. So I feel like RJ Harvey is going to really take that position and kind of run with it. And there's going to be a time where it's going to be hard to get him off the field. And then the other one I got is, he's more of a vet, been around for a while now, but Calvin Ridley. I just feel that he's going to have one of those underrated seasons where it's like, oh, I don't really want to touch anybody in Tennessee. However, Cam Ward, I think, is going to surprise some folks, and there's nobody else on the roster you're going to throw to besides Ridley. So I feel like Ridley's going to have a pretty good year in that terms. Eric. 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 What are you doing over there?
Man, Calvin Ridley and I we're just not in good terms. I just can't with it.
You know how I feel about him too. I've had him multiple years.
Year, right? Was it last year?
Yes, I had him last year.
Him for a couple years before that. I had him in Atlanta. Riddle me this.
I know you have a pretty bad relationship with Calvin Ridley because of what he's done in the past. But I feel this is one of those years that even though you might have the relationship, it might be a good pick to pick.
You definitely had me at RJ Harvey. He's stout. He had a great career at Virginia. And he's just one of those guys you get a second, third round pick. I think those guys that had experience and are just hard-nosed runners. And I think Denver, I guess I'm thinking of their heyday with running backs, but they should be pretty good. So I definitely like RJ Harvey, and we'll see about Calvin.
Yeah, we'll see. All right, so that kind of wraps up our sleepers. Just kind of give a couple of those. I got a couple in the bag that I'm probably going to keep because we have a draft this weekend.
Can't spill the beans,
Can't give everything. So the last thing we kind of want to get into was just doing like a first round mock draft. Based on a 10-team league and a PPR league, obviously, with quarterbacks getting, say, four points for TDs. I know Eric was talking about how we play in a league that is 6, so quarterbacks mean a little bit more, but we'll base it off of what the normal leagues are. So Eric, did you want to just give what your 10 would be?
Let me see if I can kind of or I guess we can maybe. So I mean, okay, so I think we both should agree. So number one, I'd have Jamar Chase, right?
You got Jamar Chase as your number one?
He would probably be my number one pick.
Okay, so maybe we'll just go back and forth then, because I got Bijan Robinson as my number 1 pick there. So
okay, and Bijan's my number 2. I'm gonna take number 2. I'll take Bijan.
Exactly. Jamar Chase is my number 2, so that makes a little sense there.
Okay, so we'll know.
Number
3.
I mean, no, I'm sorry. Jamar Chase was my number 2, so that is
right.
a little different from Gibbs. Yep. Go ahead.
Yeah. So okay, yeah, gotcha. And then Gibbs would be, speaking of Gibbs, he would be my number. Wait, who did I have? Hold on, let me make sure I got this right. So yeah, Jamar Chase 1, and then we have Bijan off the board, right? So we have those 2. Yep. I know those are flip flop, but if I had the 3rd pick with those 2 gone, I'm gonna have to go with Jahmyr Gibbs at number 3. What about you?
Same. I got Jahmyr coming off the board at number 3.
Number 4. What do you got? This is where it gets fun.
I have CeeDee Lamb because I feel like he's going to have one of those seasons. He's going to be up there at my number 4. I
agree. I have to go with CeeDee Lamb at my number 4. And so 5, geez, now I'm like thinking about my list that I had. So 5, man, for me, it's kind of like Jefferson, Amon-Ra St. Brown territory. So, I mean, I did put Jefferson above him on my list, so I probably would go with Jefferson. I'm assuming you would either go with St. Brown or Barkley.
Yep, I got Amon-Ra St. Brown at number 5.
Number 5. Okay. Who's your 6?
Now, my number 6 is where I put Jefferson. I'm going to keep him kind of there, but, kind of middle of the pack there.
Got it. So we're pretty much like, we kind of have the same idea. And so, I mean, gosh, if I have the 7th pick, I mean, I'd have to take my chances that Saquon Barkley is going to have a pretty good year. And so that would be my number 7.
Okay. So this is when we kind of go off a little bit. This is where I pick Malik Neighbors.
Ooh.
7.
Okay. What would be your 8?
My 8 would be Ashton Genty.
Yeah, that was like one of your top backs. So I got Barkley at my number 7. So trying to think now, I'm all confused. So basically now, because St. Brown would have been number 6 and then number 7, I have to go. I'd go Puka Nacua at this spot.
Yep. That's what I figured you might go there. So this would be number 9 for me.
Yep.
All right. Number 9 for me would be Saquon.
And if I were to choose a 9, I'd probably go Ashton at this point.
Okay. And then my number 10, who was right there with Malik Neighbors, it's going to be Brian Thomas Jr. at number 10.
See, it would be a good position because I feel here you'd get 2 picks, and if you can get a Derrick Henry and a Brian Thomas Jr. right here, something to that effect, not a bad spot to be in there. Or if you even what's his name? Who am I looking at here? Even Genty, right? And
I was going to say Bucky Irving. That's who I'd pick. If I had that back to back, it would be Brian Thomas and Bucky Irving.
Yep. So obviously, there's a lot of different ways you can go there, right? I mean, you're going to have your 3 or 4 where you can have a different choice, right? To whatever your liking is, if you rather go running back first, for wide receiver first. But I think it kind of shows, if you've got any pick in the first round, you're probably going to get a pretty damn good player. It all just depends on where you like to draft.
That's for sure. All right, so that wraps up our little mock first round and our top 5 positions or players at every position. So I thought it was good for fantasy purposes, kind of get that out there and let you guys know. During the season, we're going to have a Sunday night show, kind of wrap up all the injuries that everything goes on in the NFL. So look forward to that and let you guys know to put the subscribe on, notifications on, because we will be coming on those nights for fantasy football talk and just NFL talk. So, Eric, you got anything before we get out of here?
That was fun to go through some of these top players in this league, and it's fun to get a little practice. But good luck to everyone in your drafts, and it's going to be an awesome season, covering all this.
That's for sure. All right, Eric, we got our draft this weekend, so you know how some of us, I still kept some secrets here. But for the Hoops Rehab team, we are out, and we will see you Sunday. Peace out, guys.
Got some more sleepers.